Hi, happy Monday. Welcome back to The Work Witch. I'm Bree. I'm all about bringing a little bit more enchantment and magical thinking and intuition into your work life and your ambition. And today I want to get into sort of witchy design thinking. A lot of my professional experience is around product strategy, design strategy. This is the stuff I would do at work, right? Except that in my off hours, I have been a pagan witch doing earth-based religion stuff, okay? We're chasing spiritual awakening and growth. And now I'm merging the two, okay? And the area that I think is particularly interesting to merge, where there's like a natural sort of synchronicity or energetic feedback loop maybe, is between sort of a witchy, magical, re-enchanted view of the world and design thinking. For the sake of clarity, we're just gonna call it witchy design thinking. I've been working on this concept quite a lot, and I wanna start diving into it with the idea of setting a vision as an act of spell casting. This is going to be especially helpful if you are in any sort of leadership role in a startup environment, an entrepreneur, or a new manager. The core of the idea is that when you are a visionary leader, you're meant to sort of create a space where innovation and good ideas can bloom, right? And if you're a witch, if you practice magic, or if you practice any sort of spiritual practice really, is you create sacred space for transformation to happen. And I think these are actually quite similar endeavors. On the sort of magical spiritual side, this is very much an internal journey, right? Where you are seeking self-transformation. When you are a visionary leader or any sort of leader, you're doing that for a group of people around an idea. You're hoping that their energies collectively can manifest or generate or create or provide something to the world. So if we're going to craft a vision that is compelling enough for our team to get behind or our customers to get behind, then it needs to satisfy some of the same things that a sacred space would satisfy or a spell would satisfy, okay? And those are three things. We're going to talk about three elements to this. The first is a clear intention, knowing exactly what it is that you want. Next is focused energy. Where are you trying to put the energy that you're raising? Where is that attention going? Where is that energy flowing to? And last is embodied action, okay? Because spell work or manifestation work, spiritual work, it's just daydreaming if you don't do anything with it. So similar to manifesting or casting a spell, you're saying, this is the vibe or the thing that I'm claiming. And when you're working with a team, you're actually doing something very similar. I think really effective leaders already know this intuitively, okay? They might not call it manifestation or magic or sacred work, but they know it intuitively, because otherwise the vision setting process can just be like this corporate buzzword bingo, and it doesn't actually compel anyone to action, inspire anyone to a space of high agency where they can feel like they are an active contributor to ideas, where they can execute on projects or lead hackathons or whatever it might be. You see the byproduct of poor vision setting all the time when you have meetings, like team meetings. If there's silence at the beginning of your team meetings, if people aren't chatty with each other, the vibes are off. Something's wrong, right? If you have a strategy session, a brainstorming session, an ideation session, or a feedback session on, like, say, a roadmap, for instance, if you are receiving crickets, if people don't have questions or critiques, if your work is being, or the work, if you're not the one presenting, but if the work is being sort of looked at and there is no reaction, something's off. The leadership isn't working. The vision isn't clear. For a vision or a spell to work, it shouldn't just inspire action, inspire embodiment, and inspire response. It should also inspire some critique. Like, I can't manifest a new job opportunity in Tokyo if I'm not applying to jobs in Tokyo, right? So good magical practice is typically grounded in some sort of ritual. And I'm not big on like enacting a spell or manifestation with like a lot of bells and whistles. It's just not who I am. It's not how I personally work. Maybe you are. Maybe you like to, make it a whole day affair, or it takes up the whole night. Like, whatever. We all have different layers of a ritual that we apply to the act of setting a vision or setting an intention. So whatever your style is, I want you to sort of bring it into a work context for a minute with me, okay? And if this is all new to you, if you've never done a spell or manifested anything, then you can take your experience at work and then apply it to some magic, okay? So here's what we're gonna think about. Good spells and good visions have three elements to making them happen. okay? The first is being grounded in purpose. If you're a practitioner of an earth-based religion, this is probably going to be sort of a sense of calling in the spirits of the land, recognizing the elements, noticing the temperature of the air around you, taking note of your body, right? But this is for that internal transformation work that we discussed earlier. That's the key difference for spiritual transformation or spell work or spell casting versus making a team happen. So how do we take that similar sort of elemental assessment, that grounding process, and put it into a team? You need to address what your team is anxious about. What things are blocking them from being grounded in the purpose of the activity, right? You can't have an effective design thinking workshop or ideation session if people are anxious about the looming layoffs, or they're anxious about a new initiative from the company that actually goes against a really important core team. Maybe there's an editorial team or a content strategy team, for instance, that's being really sidelined by the use of AI. Or maybe there is a customer success team that has brought forward a lot of really great ideas for the roadmap, but it's being completely ignored, and those customers, those accounts, their needs are being completely ignored because of some top-down initiative from the private equity firm. What is the anxiety? What is the uncertainty that is preventing your team from being grounded in the purpose of the session? Another part to grounding your team is to understand what's motivating them to show up despite those anxieties, despite the politics of the office. Is your team there because they value the salary? Is your team there because they feel like it's a good learning opportunity or the brand of your company is strong in the industry? Is your team there because they really like the team culture, even though the business itself might not be very successful? The next thing you want to do to ground your team is think about what gifts each person is bringing to the table that could help everyone together do something a little bit different. So you as a leader should be taking stock again of the anxieties of your team, the motivations of your team, in spite of those anxieties, and their unique gifts, and use that as sort of a process for grounding. This can be direct. You can allow there to be like a sticky note session where you have sort of 3 columns, and you can do column 1 is, what are you worried about? And it's anonymous. You can just put their sticky notes up there and it's open for discussion. The second one could be, what's motivating you right now? Why are you happy you're here, right? And the third column can be, what are some gifts that you love to see in other members of the team, or what are some gifts that you're bringing that you feel aren't being used? You know, I think a lot of leaders try to hide from asking these kinds of direct questions because they feel quite vulnerable and you don't have a response prepared. And I want you to know you don't have to have a response prepared. Often it is just the listening part that you need to do. So allow the team to have those moments of discussion, of vulnerability, and let it happen without judgment. Okay? You don't need to do, I'm gonna action this. Oh, this is super concerning. Don't do any of that. Just thank you for sharing. I'm gonna reflect on this. That's all you have to say. Now that you have grounded your team, okay, we're going to do the next element of casting a spell, which is clearing the energetic space. We're about to have our Marie Kondo moment, okay? We're going to do that, but for energy. So in a typical sort of manifestation or spiritual context, this is often where you sort of cast out any negative energies, anything lingering on you, anything that's going to prevent you from sort of seeing the good or seeing the potential or seeing the possible, anything that's going to distract you from your focus. When we're doing internal sacred work, clearing energy is really all about how do we release those self-limiting beliefs or any assumptions and let them go so they don't interfere or hold back the potential of the spell or the transformation or the manifestation process that we're going through. This is going to be the hardest part, I think, of having an effective visioning ritual in place for your team, because if you're going to clear all that in a team context, that means number 1, you need to get rid of the that's how things are done mentality. Your established processes need to be left at the door, okay? You want people to feel like not only are they grounded, but this is a new page, a fresh start, a new slate, okay? A blank slate. There are a couple ways to do this, okay? Either you can extract sort of feedback from your team, similar to how I suggested you do in the grounding process, or you as a leader can set the tone and clear the energy on behalf of the team. And this would be a process of acknowledging where maybe the company or the team or lately you guys have been playing small or have been leaning into fear instead of accessing the greatest potential of the team or the greatest potential of the product, whatever it might be. It could also be acknowledging maybe where leadership has recently compromised on values that you have stated were important. The process of owning up to mistakes or owning up to failures and allowing for that sort of reflective critique doesn't need to be a display of weakness, especially on the part of the leader, okay? What it's really about is shaking all of it off, okay? And by doing that with your team or for your team, or allowing your team to do that co-creatively, which depending on your team culture may or may not go so well the first couple times, you are building an environment where energy and ideas and innovation and intention setting can be done. Let me give you a couple examples from my career to come to mind, okay? So I'm going to start with where there was a compromise on values. So I worked in a company where one of the most important values was around freedom of expression, about uplifting voices across like DEI, for instance, right? Underrepresented voices, marginalized voices. And we had a customer who could not receive some of our products and services that incorporated those values because it conflicted with their political climate and the laws and policies that they had. So we had to decide, is our value set stronger than this customer contract, and we'll let that customer contract go because it would compromise our values to deliver on that customer contract? Or do we believe that fulfilling this customer contract actually is a way to help move the needle and create transformation in that customer's environment? This sparked so much debate, and I won't share with you the outcome, but I will share with you that not everybody was happy. The important thing was that there was a debate had, there was a conversation had, there was an opportunity for feedback and reflection, and the issue was able to come up multiple times in the course of that customer account's life cycle, where we were allowed to continuously provide opportunities for improvement and feedback around this issue. Another good example was an innovation, and I suspect that if you work in a small to medium-sized tech company, maybe you can relate to this. I worked in a company where we created a really special thing that didn't yet exist in the market, and it was cool. We thought it could generate actually a lot of buzz. It's a niche thing that a larger FANG company hasn't done and probably won't do anytime soon because that's just not how they allocate resources or see ROI. But for us, it was like a life-changing, company trajectory-changing sort of innovation and potential revenue. But the project ended up getting held back because there was fear that we were not a big enough company to deliver on that service at scale, that it was too big of shoes to fill, that yes, it would generate buzz, yes, it would get customers, and we weren't ready to serve that many customers. And so we let that innovation sit on the shelf and it lost all of its buzz. These sorts of things happen in teams all the time, and we need to create space to reflect on them, to clear that energy, to set a fresh start with our team, to encourage them that yes, we have made mistakes in the past. Yes, we've made decisions we regret. Yes, we've compromised on our values. Yes, we've done business as usual. And the reason we're having this session now is because it hasn't worked. And we want to know what we could do next, what we could do better. Okay, the third element of an effective spell casting is the invocation and embodiment phase, okay? We have grounded ourselves, we have cleared the energy, and now we are invoking and embodying the thing that we want. With your team, this is probably going to be getting to that vision statement. There's going to be a process in between clearing that energy, brainstorming ideas, getting all that juicy stuff in, and then it's time to decide what is the thing. One thing that comes to mind is how badly we try to play it safe. So many brainstorming sessions will yield sort of the same predictable ideas, right? And it sucks because you have all this anticipation, you have all this really good feedback happening, and there's all this energy, and then you get to the proposal stage and then it starts to be the same stuff. I think coming back to the sort of job to be done framework here can be really useful as an example of how we can embody or invoke a certain service or product or fill a certain need. I think the pains and gains value proposition framework, that canvas, is really effective here as well, but it can get you too down in the details. I think what you really need is to get closer to a mission statement, more specific than a mission statement, but as meaningful as one. That's how you make a compelling vision. A lot of vision statements incorporate sort of these revenue goals or these like KPI sort of metrics as part of them, rather than saying, oh, we're going to measure this vision's outcome based on these KPIs. That should be a separate thing, right? You can create metrics for a qualitative vision statement. Okay, you can do that. But your vision statement really should come back to the pain point that you're trying to solve and a hypothesis, essentially, of how that might be done. Obviously, this needs to be a more high-level hypothesis, but let's go back to my example of, wanting to have a job in Tokyo, for instance. Let me manifest a job in Tokyo. I need to apply to those jobs, right? That would be the action-oriented part. But that sort of embodiment and invocation would be when I speak to people to say, oh yeah, I'm currently looking for a new role in Tokyo in X industry this year, right? Nice and specific. In the context of a team, I work in product, so for me, I'm going to come back to roadmaps a lot, sorry. Your vision statement for the quarter could be that we want to transform search in our product, right? We want search to become a pleasant experience. Our vision is that people are going to actually be able to find what they need quickly and have a positive experience from using this feature. If you're going at a higher, more company level sort of vision statement, it could be, I want to solve X problem for X person. Together, we are focusing our energies and our creative ideas, and we're going to prioritize against making home gardening affordable and accessible to people in the big city. Now, an important part of this is because I'm going to assume that you're working in a team environment, there might be multiple competing ideas and vision statements emerging, and you can entertain them. If we continue with this sort of design thinking mindset, you can then have sort of this magical testing round, okay, where you do rapid prototyping of some of these concepts and ideas. You can frame a roadmap around a certain priority set, and this is what the roadmap would look like. Here's what the priorities would be. Here's some of the projects that we think are doable, and compare them side by side with others. I think what happens a lot is we end up trying to sort of accommodate all the ideas in the room, and we end up with this sort of mismatched, unfocused vision and process forward. And if you want to be an effective leader, you need to learn to say, those ideas are great, but we're not going to be able to do them right now. We're going to focus on this vertical of ideas, or this theme, or this path, and really chart that, champion that, and lead with that. And creating an opportunity for your team to sort of set those different priority styles or themes side by side and decide this one actually feels like the right one. It's going to be a lot easier if you allow for some time and resources to go into rapid prototyping of those concepts. And by rapid prototyping, I really mean you could create something as simple as a sales page of something that doesn't exist yet and show it to 10 customers and see what they react with. You can gather feedback and data for these ideas to ensure that there is sort of this interfacing opportunity before you put all this time and energy into building for the market that isn't ready to receive what you built. It's just not quite right. Tying this back into witchcraft and sacred space and manifestation and spirituality isn't hard, right? I think often we have these big dreams or these insights or even these visions, these feelings of transformation, and the way they actually show up in our life is a little bit unexpected. It might not actually fit exactly what we thought it was going to be. Mercury retrograde can be sending an email to the wrong person, right? Or leaving your laptop open for your toddler to post things to LinkedIn. I've had that happen. Or it could be as simple as missing your flight. Or it could be losing your phone. And similar with when we try to manifest something or we put something into the world, it's not going to turn out exactly as it was originally in our head, because once it's interacting with the world, many hands are going to get on it, right? Many hands are going to touch it. And the same is true with the things that we manifest or want to enact, to conjure, really. It's going to have to go through some sort of constructive process between the purity of thought in our head and what's possible in this world. And the same is true for the visions that you create in your team and the actual product, service, or offering that you then co-create and put into the world. And this is why if you're someone like me who can get really attached to the original idea or concept and be really bummed when you have to sort of kill your darlings, it's really important to not take these things personally, to see it as a co-creative process, to see yourself as a co-creator. And leaders, that goes for you too. Your job as a leader is to make sure that the best ideas are heard, that everyone has a chance to contribute. It's not to be right. It's not to have your original vision or initial insight be retained necessarily. It's to facilitate the best ones to come through. Let me know what you think. I'm going to be exploring a bit more around design thinking and witchcraft and how they really interestingly intersect. I'm going to be doing that here, but also over on my blog. So if that interests you, you can also read sort of the topics I covered in this video. I was looking at my blog notes over here. So if that interests you, go ahead. Otherwise, I will see you in a future week ahead, a future Monday. We will cross paths. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful week. Don't let anyone treat you like shit. Oh, and also, if you would like to subscribe to my newsletter, I have a newsletter now. It's called Enchanted Ambitions, and my vision for it is for it to become a community space of people who are, career-oriented, ambitious people who will not sacrifice their sense of magic and enchantment about the world in order to show up at work. They want to fuse the two together. I will leave a link below where you can read the blog post companion to this video, as well as sign up to Enchanted Ambitions. I would be honored to have a spot in your inbox. Anyway, have a great week. Don't let anyone treat you like shit. Bye. Toodles.